Alright, hey guys, welcome to this lecture, and we're going to be doing something a little bit more complicated. It's a really cool nav bar, really cool menu with a tilt, as you can see on our y-axis. We use a tiny bit of JavaScript. We're not even going to get into it and explain it. Maybe a touch. Anyway, so we got our class navigation, and within our headers we have another class navigation button, navigation list, and then we have all our different list items with their text. And yeah, okay, we're gonna get to our. That's what it looks like without our CSS styling, ordinary nav bar. Now we're gonna do our basic reset, defining our padding and our margins and our border box for all of our elements before, after, and otherwise. And in our body, we're going to define height as 100, viewport height, font family sans serif. And we'll give it a perspective of 800 pixels, which is pretty much the distance of how the viewer sees it. Not exactly, but that's all you need to understand. And a dark gray background. Now you can see we're going to need to style all our different hyperlinks because we do not want them looking as the browser automatically defines them. So, styling our navigation, we're going to give it a z-index of 2 to bring it forward, to put it above our image, and position absolute, top 0, left 0, a height 100%, and width 16 EM, because we only want it covering part of the left side of the screen. So each EM is 16 pixels in our case. And our background will be just a lighter form of gray. Alright. So now what we're going to do is we're going to translate x minus 100 EM, and it'll disappear. But we want that as part of our animation, not right now. Part of our the effect. So transition will be 150 milliseconds, ease out. And so yeah, so we're styling our navigation, our lists. And our list style is none. So I get rid of the dots, the bullet points on the sides. I'm going to stop for a moment, and we're going to style our navigation title. That's the little button that when we click it opens the menu. It's called button, right? So what we're going to do be in our block display and our absolute position. And just top 0, and on the right we're going to give it minus 65 pixels, just pushing it off to the right a little bit. I should say pulling it towards the right. Height 60 pixels and width 60 pixels, just a small cute little box with font size 12 and font color white, and background the same dark, just a dark gray as well, same as the rest of the nav bar. And our z-index, same, and the same, also 2, same as the nav bar. Define the line height as 60 pixels, so our text is centered. Text to line center as well. And letter spacing 1 pixel. Great, so text transform uppercase, and cursor pointer. Okay, I guess that looks pretty good. Alright, we're back to styling all of our styling our list, and we're going to style our specific navigation links. That's all these different links. So display inline block, padding, nothing on the sides, 16 pixels top to bottom, width 100%, height 60 pixels, and color light blue, 60 pixel line height. Alright, already it's looking better, but we're going to get rid of those underlines using text decoration none, and text transform uppercase. Just gotta copy the background color. Okay, there we are, already looking better. Now what we're going to do is define what happens when we hover. When we hover over a specific button, its color will change. The color of the, color of the background will change to white, color of the font will change to black. And a 0.2 seconds transition just gives it a delay effect and makes it look a little more classy. Alright, see that? Awesome. Alright, so we're going to use another element that we've called main in the HTML. And we're going to use that for our picture, for our image. So we're going to, yet again, position absolute. And we're going to just put it right on top of our body. So it covers the entire screen at the beginning. So top and left 0, width 100%, height 100%. Background, we'll just link to our JPEG. And the background size cover. Transform origin left. Alright, you'll see why we need that in a moment, once we give it our rotate effect. So our transition will be 150 milliseconds, easing out. Okay, so I'm going to create two classes that don't exist in our HTML code, but we'll using JavaScript we'll apply them. So we're going to have a menu active class when we transform and translate x to 0, which brings it back from its minus however many percent or whatever we had it, which will bring it out onto the screen when the menu is active, and a menu hover where we transform and translate x just by minus 15 EM. So it's just a tiny touch. Alright, so you can see that. Wait, we need to deactivate that comment. Alright, so see, when we hover, there's a tiny effect, and when we click on it, it'll open completely. It's important to use the same class names as me if you just want to use the JavaScript that I'm using. So we're going to style our menu active so that our transform translate x is 16 EM and rotate y 15 degrees. So it pushes it out a little bit to the right and it'll rotate it with a 3D kind of effect. And hover, we're going to just translate by 1 EM and rotate by 1 degree. So a tiny little transition for the hover, and when you click on it, boom, moves away. Alright, and we still have all of our cool effects on our buttons. Alright, so tiny little things we need to do now. We're going to add so that our color, our background color, to the navigation button when we hover it with a 1.2 second transition, so that glows as well when we hover. I'll make that transition actually, there you go, just change the transition time. These are all things you can play with. So okay, I didn't get into the JavaScript at all. I just copied that out of the source code. Yeah, you shouldn't have any problems with that, but if you do, QA section. All right, take care. All right, hey guys, how you doing? Today we're working on a cool, a simple, lightweight animation effect for your website. Rather than using JavaScript, what we're just gonna take a PNG image and just animate it a little bit. So we're gonna need is your PNG, your rain PNG. Now, You should know this, but the wonderful thing about PNGs is that they're transparent. So you can have a transparent background. There's not a white background you need to remove as opposed to a JPEG. So we've already done our basic reset of the border box and the padding and margin 0. Our body, yet again, minimum height, 100 viewport height. We're gonna style our section class. So position is relative, width 100%, and height 100%, and our background is our image. It's bg.jpg. That's our cool looking street background image. And background size cover. Right now, we're gonna add an effect to our background as well. Call it animate, and we're gonna just add a filter that's hue rotate. 0 degrees at 0 and 100 degrees at 360 degrees. Sorry, 100 degrees. 360 degrees at 100%. Now that's your hue spectrum. You can see from 0 to 360, and it comes full circle. So what it'll do is it'll just like Instagram or whatever, it's just gonna filter through the colors, and the duration will be how quickly it does that. So animate 2 seconds, linear infinite, and you can see it already just cycles through the colors. If you want to slow it down or speed it up, that's fine. We're now going to create our rain images in our before element within this section. So empty content string, position absolute, top 0 and left 0. We're going to change that though with the transition. And width 100% and height 100%. We want it to fill our screen completely. Our background is our rain PNG or ping, however you want to pronounce it. I'm not going to get in on that one. I like the whole GIF argument. Anyway, keyframes for the rain at 0% background position, 0 and 0, right? 0 from the top, 0 from the left. At 100% background position, 20% from the left, and 100% from the top. Now, animation rain, duration 0.3 seconds, linear infinite. Now, I did a different version when I changed the duration. Like 1 second duration is too slow; it's kind of skippy. So yeah, so you can find the duration suits. I think 0.6. I made a version also with I added just opacity 0.5, and this is what it looks like. So it's a bit gentler. So anyway, all right, guys, take care. Use your powers well. All the best. Hello there, and in this lecture, welcome. We're going to be doing cards with a shrinking linear gradient cover. All right, so how we're going to do that is we're going to have 3 different divs with cards, and the class container contains all 3 of the cards. Each card class contains a card with a face class and a face 1 class div. And within each face 1 we have a class content with a h2 header and a paragraph. And within each face 2 we have just the number of the card. So face 2 is we'll say each card is made up of 2 faces. The top card has the number, bottom card has the content. Alright, so within our CSS, we're going to go ahead and perform our basic reset, setting all the padding and margins to 0 and the box sizing to border box. I'm going to go ahead, style our body, 100 viewport height, display flex, justify content center, and align items center, font family sans serif. Our background is going to be a linear gradient, 45-degree angle, purple, and a light pink. Is that hot pink? Alright. I'm going to go ahead and style our container, the one that contains all 3 of the different divs with cards in them. And we're going to give it a width of 1200 pixels. We're going to put the display as grid, and our grid template columns repeat auto fit and min max. Now what this does is it spreads out our the divs with our cards automatically, but because we're setting a width to the card, it's not as critical. We're going to give each card class its own width as well. The grid gap is 15 pixels, and now that's just a little spacing within the grid between the different elements on it. Our margin, we'll set it to 0 in auto. It keeps everything centered, more or less. Alright, so now we're going to style all the card class which affects all three of the different cards. We're going to set position to relative and width to 300 pixels, height to 400 pixels. Our margin is yet again 0 and auto, and background white. We're going to add a box shadow of 15 pixels underneath and a 60 pixel blur. So if I mark the width as a comment here, you can see the space between the cards is almost non-existent because of the min-max feature, where we set the minimum to 350 pixels and the maximum to 1 fraction. So now we're going to go ahead and keep our width property on our cards. Great. So now we're going to style, this is all the faces together, both face 1 and face 2 will be affected by this. Position absolute, bottom and left 0. Width 100%, height 100%, display flex, and justify content center and align item center. Okay. Right, so now we're going to style our face 1. Now this is the card, part of the card that contains all our content. It contains our text, contains our header element as well. So we're just going to add padding of 20 pixels. Now our styling for the face 2 element, which is just the number, we go to black background and a transition of 0.5 seconds. So at the moment you can't see anything. We're not going to keep that as the background, but just so you could see that it hides the bottom face. Now we're going to add a hover effect to face 2 and define height as 60 pixels. Because we defined the position as left 0 and bottom 0, when it shrinks down to the bottom. So 60 pixels from the bottom of the picture. If we had defined it as top 0, left 0, then you would have seen it shrink up to the top. Now we're going to add a hover effect to face 2, to the header that we have on face 2, which is our number. We'll change the font size to 10 EM, color to white, and transition of 0.5 seconds. And we're going to add a text shadow to that. Now we're going to add, oh, sorry, no, we're not going to do the hover, we're just going to, that's our card, that's how we want it to start. Now, our hover effect, we're just going to change the font size to 2 EM. Alright, so the number shrinks down as the card shrinks down. And it automatically aligns itself in the center of the card because that's how it's defined to do. Now, all we're going to do now is change the background of the different cards by applying background color effect to face 2. And just applying 3 different linear gradients to each of the NTH child. Great, so I'm just going to change over our different colors in our linear gradients. With an awesome yellow, radical blue, fantastic pink, and perpetual yellow. All right, I'm just gonna change add a margin to our face 1 header. Just add a margin to the bottom of 5 pixels to give it a little more space between the header and the rest of the text. All right, there you go. See you next lecture.